We'll get into it. I already know what it is. You're not giving him praise. You would never give him a segment to give him praise.
Yo, 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 yo. It's your boy Big Cozy, Too Cozy. It's your boy Relaxing Jackson. It's your boy Say Kitch. The three amigos introducing you to episode 67 of the Highly Advised podcast. Thank you all listeners for coming in, tuning in to another good and great and awesome, fantastic episode of the Highly Advised podcast. I'm here with the two amigos, the two co-hosts, the two colleagues, the two superstars, the two champions.
Okay.
Nigel No Shame and Spence, aka Saint Kitch.
Yeah.
Fellas, let the people know who you are, and one of you, let the people know where they can follow us. But before you guys do, it is me. It's your guy. Today, I am the opening act. Big Cozy, Too Cozy. Where can you follow me? Big Cozy, Too Cozy. That's right. Only on IG. Exclusive for me. And we're breaking your NECK. All right, guys, go ahead.
From the main event to the opening act, man.
Yeah.
All in the same.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you got to do both.
Yeah. As you can tell, thanks for the introduction. If you can't tell who this is, if you're listening through the podcast on any of our streaming platforms, this is Spence, otherwise known as Saint Kitch. You can follow me on Instagram at Saint Kitch, ST.KITCH. But on top of that, like I asked last week, and I asked to make me feel good, make all of us feel better this week, right? As we step into the new month of August, it's the first of the month. I know somebody got their check. They're feeling good today, unlike some other people possibly. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But you can follow us on, if you want to actually check out what we're doing, follow us on Instagram at the Highly Advised Podcast. Check out our Twitter at Advise Highly. Or I know you probably love hearing the sounds on our streaming platforms of the Highly Advised Podcast. But if you want to see it in video, check us out on YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast as well.
And that guy over there. No, man, you can't see that unless you get on the YouTube and actually get on there and leave comments and whatnot and call us. You know, honestly, we need some positivity. We've been called all types of things. We've been called uneducated, dumb fans.
That's what they're supposed to do. That's what comments are.
I'm cool with the hate, but we need some positivity to balance it out, though. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, where are the people that love us? Because we get a lot of hate. I want the love.
Man, all you 2-bit scumbags, if you want to continue to comment hate, that's okay. Because when we talk shit back, I don't want none of you guys running away with your thumb up your ass. And you don't even know how to keep a thumb in your ass. So keep the hate coming. But yes, we do want some love.
I mean, it's crazy statements to say after such a wild week. Crazy statements to say after a wild week. But nonetheless, I mean, in the words of Lloyd Banks, sometimes you got to forget positivity because negativity spreads faster. So, hey, listen, like we say every week, if you want to show love, leave a comment, comment, share, subscribe. If you want to hate, comment, share, and subscribe.
True.
Either way, we're going to be here for you. Love it or hate it. The underdog is still on top, in the words of 50 Cent, otherwise known as Curtis Jackson. But let me let my co-host get back to what he was saying. Go ahead, Mr. Relaxing OG Jackson.
No relation between me and 50 Cent. Shouts out to 50 Cent. But
oh shit, I didn't even
yeah, I know. Relaxing OG _ Jackson, Curtis Jackson. We have something in common, but not, actual blood. So that's that. I'm doing good. You know what I mean? It's been a good week. It'll be a better week. The Steelers are going to be in a preseason game. So I'm curious to see how we do this season. Football season is officially underway, not officially, but we're here to the preseason and all the rookies are going to go out and do their thing. So I am very excited for it. This is like one of my favorite times of the year. I love this shit. I'm going to be watching the TV. I'm, die hard for Steelers. Shouts out to that.
Shout out to Lamar Jackson.
So I was speaking to Gilroy, friend of the show, and he said that he wants the Bengals to be at the front of my division. I said that, well, we came to the conclusion that Lamar Jackson would have to break, a leg. Odell Beckham would have to get injured again. And Joe Burrow would have to be playing his ass off along with his defense in order for them to lead the division.
Well, man, shouts out to Gilroy. Hey, Gilroy, I'm sorry I didn't pick up your phone call this morning, but why in the hell do you want the Bengals to win, Gilroy? Please.
Because of Joe Burrow, man. That's why.
Please.
Hey, man. I don't know what to tell you. You must have been a Chad Johnson fan back in the day.
Shouts out to Chad Johnson, man. Ocho Cinco was doing his thing. He's playing the Steelers, always catching the ball and burning us like it was his fucking job, which I guess technically it was. So, shouts out to him. Now he's doing his thing, boxing matches and shit.
Yeah, which is crazy. And even then, he won his fight, even though he got dropped.
Yeah.
Unlike some other people, for real.
Well, I mean, we getting into it, you guys? Are we getting into the weekly news for the listeners?
If you don't know anybody, so there was a fight with Bellator over the weekend with Patricio Pitbull Fiere. Correct me if my name. Correct me. I'm uneducated by the YouTube comments, so I don't know how to pronounce his last name accordingly to them.
Pitbull.
Versus AJ McKee. Very simple name to get. So Pitbull, I'm not sure how deep it was into the first round. It couldn't have been no more than the first 2 minutes. Pitbull gets stopped. The double champion, the guy that we had ranked in our one of the top ranked fighters for our MMA list last year. Someone that was a double champ in Bellator, starched. How do you guys feel about this?
Me personally, as I was watching it last night, I was a little surprised, that it ended so early. I had a feeling that he could win because AJ McKee has been like nothing but successful in Bellator. As I watch, his rise to the ranks, and I can't say that I'm the biggest AJ McKee fan, honestly, but from what I've seen from him, he seems pretty skilled. For featherweight, I think that's great. I think featherweight's actually an interesting division in and outside of the UFC to a certain degree because you have a few contenders in Bellator and you have, people over in the UFC doing their thing as well, Volkanovski, Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, this, that, and the third. Now, my thing is that I heard a few people, comparing this win to Conor McGregor's win at featherweight. I disagree with that, only for a few reasons, because I feel like this is more like Rose beating Zhang Weili a little earlier in the year. I think a lot of people thought that AJ McKee could win this fight, and he did win the fight. When Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo in 14 seconds with one punch after all of the buildup, it just hit a little differently than that. Everybody knew that Rose Namajunas could win the fight against Zhang Weili. Nobody knew that she was going to knock the other chick out. I don't want to call her any type of crazy names, but I mean, like, it was a little surprising to see just how fast he was stopped. He got rocked and then punched a couple times. AJ McKee thought he won, and then he put him in the guillotine. And by the time the fight was over, you could tell that Pitbull just didn't know where he was. It's like he couldn't really say anything because he was dazed and clearly just not there by the time the fight was over. AJ McKee did his thing, and everybody should be praising him for the job he did, specifically Scott Coker, because Bellator needed a homegrown product like him, and they should be very proud of what he did last night.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with Nigel. Nigel pretty much gave a good quick breakdown of the fight. Last night when I was watching this fight, I just thought I was rooting for AJ McKee. Let me get that out the way. He was the guy that I hoped that did win the tournament, and he was the guy that I hope did walk away with the featherweight championship and $1 million. But I was like, man, as much as I want AJ McKee to win, it's hard to go against Patricio because the guy, the motherfucker is a tank. He's not a guy that you could easily count out. There's a reason why Bellator was hyping him up as the pound for pound #1 guy. He's beat Daniel Strias, Pat Curran, Emmanuel Sanchez. He beat some tough guy. He knocked out Michael Chandler, made Michael Chandler face plant into the canvas in the first round. He's easily top 5 featherweight in the world, no matter the promotion. If he went in the UFC, Patricio can compete. He could compete in that top 10. Probably could compete in the top 5 without a problem. You know, so I think like Pitbull, he's a dog for real, no pun intended. And I was just like, I want McKee to do it. He's been looking phenomenal. He's been finishing everybody except for Pat Kern. He's been doing his damn thing. And I was like, I wonder if this fight is going to end fast, or is it going to go into a 5-round war where Pitbull will eke out a decision. That's what I was thinking. As the first round was going on, and I noticed that Pitbull wasn't really throwing much except besides him catching a kick. And I can't really remember without looking at a highlight if he threw a counter strike back after he caught the body kick. But I was like, okay, I think he's being like kind of cautious here. And then AJ McKee, when he faked the body kick and it actually was a head kick, I was like, oh, this fight is over. Because if you watch Pitbull fights, he doesn't get caught like that. Not flushed the way he did. And when he collapsed, I was like, oh, he knocked him out. But Pitbull recovered really fast because that's how durable he is. Then he recovered right into a guillotine. And I was like, this fight is going to be over. It's either going to be over because he got put to sleep or he's going to get TKO'd. I didn't see the controversy. And when they showed the replay, the guy went flat. Some people in the comments of like Instagram, Twitter were like, oh, you know, he didn't tap. I'm like, he went flat. Like, what did you want the referee to do? Stand by and watch his body collapse and AJ McKee's holding on to his neck, about to rip his spine out? Like, that's what you want to see? You know
like
what I mean?
Mortal Kombat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like, yo, that's ridiculous. Like, the guy's out. So, congratulations to AJ McKee. Like Nigel said, this Scott Coker should be like ecstatic. Like, you have a face of Bellator. Like, he's a superstar for Bellator right now. The next thing for AJ is, hey, rematch Pitbull, but this time at lightweight, because Pitbull's still the lightweight champ. So get that fight back. Let's see if AJ McKee can do it again at lightweight. Pitbull, we get a chance to have his revenge. And if, you know, this is like a money situation for Bellator right now. They just had the featherweight Grand Prix. AJ McKee's the new champ. They got to build up new featherweight contenders now. But you don't want to have AJ McKee just sit around or have him can crushing. No, run it back for Pitbull, but at lightweight for the belt. Make some more money. So I was impressed with AJ McKee. I think he's the top 3 featherweight in the world behind Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. AJ McKee said last night his dream fight is Max Holloway. I think that's a fun fight. I would pick Max to win, but I think that's a damn fun fight. Shouts out to AJ McKee. And he's only 26, so his star can only grow bigger. So that's how I feel about the situation.
Nah, there's a lot of truth in what both of you guys said. I think because I wasn't too familiar with AJ McKee. I don't really keep up with Bellator as much, but I've heard his name once or twice. But I am familiar with Pitbull, and just like both of you guys, like I saw the post conference where Pitbull was saying something about how, oh, like I was still awake or whatever, and it's like anybody with eyes can see that you were done, and more than likely at that point, like you said, if the next step would have been his body going limp. And that's a dangerous thing to do when you're doing a standing guillotine at the end of the day. So I think, and as they always say, the referee is there to protect the fighter more often than not. So at the end of the day, I do think when it comes between the two fighters, I think AJ McKee should do a rematch with Pitbull. But personally, I think it should still be at featherweight just because in the event, because we all understand, like, because this isn't boxing where the weight difference is only like 2 or 3 pounds. When you're going up 5 to 10 pounds, we've even seen fighters like DC, for instance. And I've always said this, how I do believe DC could beat John Jones at heavyweight. And that's because even DC has always said, like, hey, when I fight at heavyweight, I feel stronger. I'm able to perform better. So in the event that, let's say, AJ McKee was to lose, then it's always it wasn't at featherweight. So just to dismiss that opportunity for an excuse or whatever, I think it's probably best to do it that way. And then you never know. It could be a thing of fighting at lightweight at some point, but I don't know. I think they're going to make sure. I think Coker's going to make sure he does whatever is necessary to help groom this guy. Because at the end of the day, when you come across a superstar, it's not easy. And when the superstar flatlines pretty much the guy, it brings noise. And then, I mean, we all understand for other reasons why I think he's probably like the best candidate to be a star. So
yeah,
it's. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do next with him. Personally,
I agree. Bellator. I know Scott Coker could have asked for a better situation. That's what I would just say.
It's like, thank God.
Yeah.
All he has to do is get him off of Showtime. That's the next step.
They're not going to, because they probably, got 360 dealed into Showtime. Like, and that's a conversation for another day. But I just don't understand why Showtime is in the MMA business. They've never been entirely great with being involved with MMA. Hence Strikeforce. So. But yeah, like I said, that's another conversation for another day. But for the listeners, since we're still talking about MMA, this upcoming weekend, we have an even bigger event, possibly, depending on who you talk to, UFC 265, where we have the controversial interim heavyweight title fight between Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane. The co-main event was the female GOAT and Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena, but now it's Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz, and then we have another important fight for welterweight with Vicente Luque and Michael Chiesa. Do you guys have any quick predictions on the three fights mentioned?
Yeah, I think these three fights are going to be kind of interesting, and to me, they're all kind of a little hard to call. I think that Cyril Gane has more of a chance of beating Derek Lewis just because we all know, what Derek Lewis is going to do. He's going to go for the knockout, obviously. I think Cyril Gane, he's more technical on the feet and, not like Curtis Blades where he'll, be striking just to get the takedown. Like he's going to be striking to not get hit by Derek Lewis and get in and get out. And I think that he can be good enough to do that. Now, if he gets popped, then, that's that for him. I feel Derek Lewis, it might take one or two strong hits to really get him away just because that's who Derek Lewis is. Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa. I can say that I want Vicente Luque to win. I think Michael Chiesa is actually a little bit better at 170 than people give him a little credit for. So I think that fight's going to be interesting. I think that's a fight that Michael Chiesa can actually win, but I think I'm going to choose Vicente Luque just because I think he's a little bit more dangerous. Now, as far as Jose Aldo and Pedro Munoz, I think I want to go with Pedro Munoz only because it's tough because I feel like in the last few fights that Jose Aldo has lost, he didn't necessarily look bad, but he got beat badly, right? The thing is that in a 3-round fight against Pedro Munoz, I think he can do enough to win. If it was like a 5-round something or other, I think Pedro Munoz just outlasts him long enough to catch him. But with that being said, though, I think Jose Aldo's the more technical striker, can get in and get out, and then I think he will win the fight against Pedro.
Okay. Spence, any take?
For the most part, I mean, the main fight that I'm really looking towards is the Derek Lewis fight. I do have Lewis winning that fight just primarily because I don't think he wants to at any point make a sacrifice of his opportunity for that belt against Francis Ngannou, and hopefully it's sometime this year. So I'm leaning towards Lewis. I probably go with Luque as well as Aldo in those two fights. I don't really have too much to say about those, but my primary, like I said, my primary focus is just on the Lewis versus Gaines. But I got Derek Lewis winning that, as long as he doesn't have any back problems.
So I think just real quick for me, I'm rooting for Derek Lewis, but I think Cyril Gane gets it easily. He's just a better striker between the two. Root for Vicente Luque, but I think this is a pick-em fight against Michael Chiesa. It all depends if Michael Chiesa could get him on the ground and actually do some work. And with Jose Aldo and Pedro Munoz, I also think this is another pick'em fight. I'm not gonna lie, I would like to see Jose Aldo win. I think because if Jose Aldo wins, you can now match him up with a Dominic Cruz, or you can match him up with, a Cody Garbrandt or a Corey Sandhagen. You can match him up with some big fights. And the thing is, I don't mind seeing Jose Aldo in big fights. The guy can fight. Yeah, he's older, even though he's still in his early 30s. He's older and he's not as dynamic as he was in the WEC days in his early featherweight title reign. But, he's still a fun fighter to watch. He's still one of the better fighters in that bantamweight division. Pedro Munoz, he could fight too, but I just think he's inconsistent. So if he does win this fight, that's cool, and he'll get matched up with a bigger opponent. But I just don't see him winning his way to the title. I just don't see it. Shouts out to Pedro Munoz, good fighter, but that's just my take. But another fight that I would like to say is Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. If that fight was going to happen originally scheduled, I think Amanda was going to slaughter her in the first round. It's only postponing Juliana Pena's execution. So
Jesus.
Now that Amanda, she lost to COVID, like many other people, unfortunately. I think they'll probably save that fight for a bigger card. In my opinion, I wish they would save it for that Madison Square Garden card with Usman and Covington fighting again.
Oh man, that would be such
that
a
would
big
be
card.
crazy.
If they did that. That card's already going to be like a nice card. It's building up.
Yeah, so that's. I hope Amanda Nunes feels better. I hope she gets better, gets well, because COVID is not a joke. That's it, really.
Yeah, that's a fact. Like, hopefully, especially with COVID, especially now with like the uprising, like with the uptick in COVID cases. So it's unfortunate that like she was one of the people that have to suffer behind this, but hopefully she heals back and gets right back to where she was. But at the end of the day, like we all know, it would have been taking the sheep to the slaughter when she would get in the ring with Juliana Pena. Amanda Nunes is the top dog for a reason. She's considered the boogie woman for a reason. And trust me, I'm quite sure COVID is wants to tap out.
Just fighting Amanda Nunes?
Yeah.
Well, my bad, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, even in the body, it's like, it's struggling. It's struggling to survive.
I personally would have wanted to see that fight. I think it goes like maybe 2 rounds. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think Juliana Pena necessarily wins that fight, but I think she goes in there and at the least doesn't get finished. I mean, you got to think, like Amanda Nunes, like she can't go in there and finish everybody in the first round. You know what I mean? That's why she was smiling at the last chick she fought. So, I mean, like...
But is it like a Khabib thing where Khabib said, I could have finished you in the first round, but I need to get some extra rounds in?
I think Amanda Nunes can finish the fight when she wants.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think if it goes to the second, it's because she wants it to go to the second.
Yeah, Juliana Pena. She's just, shouts out to her. She's been around for a bit, but it's just not. I think Amanda took the fight so easily because she was like, hey, I could get another 6 to 7 figure payday off of you. That, hey, my newborn daughter,
she needs to meet new fighters.
I
got to bring her back in the octagon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say something. I was probably going to say something a little more disrespectful, but that's fine. And not disrespectful towards ladies, like, because these two ladies, they're phenomenal fighters. With Amanda Nunes being levels above, in my opinion, and I think my co-hosts can agree, or colleagues, to be more respectful, they can agree. So, I don't know, man. I just don't think there needs to be a deep dive about that shit. But do you guys think that?
Yeah, so that's the baby from the 4400, man.
I mean,
I've never seen that show. The 4400 is the shit, though. Go ahead, Wild.
Yeah. So, just like moving on and stuff like that, there's been some news in the world of sports. Yes, the Tokyo Olympics, that's always been an ongoing thing. But with other news, Russell Westbrook, he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, and of course, Lakers fans are happy about it. Supporters of LeBron, diehard supporters, they're happy about that because they think LeBron will get another ring now. And the detractors, they just think that, hey, it's a useless move. The cap space is going to be maxed out. Now you have an expensive player like Russell Westbrook. Do you guys think this helps the Lakers get a chip next season or no? I mean, and just be quick about it, no deep dive, because free agency hasn't hit yet, so we don't know all the moves the Lakers is trying to make.
Well, I mean, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool that they have somebody that can and probably wants to take some of the pressure off of, LeBron and the rest of the team, because you already know, like, what Russell Westbrook is going to go in there and shoot 1,000 times. So, I mean, like, what better to have something to take the pressure off you than somebody who wants to hog the ball, right? So, I mean, I think that's not so bad of a thing for LeBron. I think, personally, I don't see them winning next year, but I think they'll go a little bit further into the playoffs. You know what I mean? That's what I will say. But it's going to be an interesting sight. You already know that they're going to be putting up points, and Russell Westbrook is going to get at least multiple triple doubles.
Yeah. See, I think similar to what Lau said, then we do have to wait until like there's after like the free agency is gone has passed because I just like you said, Nigel, I think he will be going for as many triple doubles as possible. That he's something that he's been keeping up with for like the past 4 or 5 years, I believe, at this point. So
he's nice though.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Westbrook has always been nice, super talented, probably considered at one point one of the most athletic players in the league at one point by many. So I do think this is going to be an interesting thing in terms of how their season is going to go, because we all know Westbrook is from LA, I believe. So in his case, he'll be playing at home for the Lakers, which, I mean, anybody that's his age, especially anybody that's from that draft class of like, well, from that other era as we transition into this new era, especially. I mean, Lakers is the Lakers are the Lakers, and to be playing for the Lakers in your hometown and hoping to try to help get them a ring with considered the greatest player by some of all time, or at least one of the greatest players that we've ever seen in our lifetime, is going to be something. I'm just curious to see how that dynamic between him and LeBron really works, because I do think he'll try to take pressure off of him, but someone that's going to be high volume shooting. I think the plus will be that since he's so high in getting assists, getting triple doubles, primarily using assists as one of them, I think it's going to help. I think that from that perspective is going to help in terms of him running the one possibly, but there's so much more I think we'll have to see when it comes to it.
I think it's cool that LeBron knows where he's at in his career. You know what I mean? Because you already know this move is not being made without LeBron. He's like, hey, how can I'm getting older and we need somebody who's good at scoring points. How about we get somebody who wants to throw the ball up a lot? You know what I mean? Like, better yet, just bring him over here. And I'm sure he was like, cool, I'm out.
Probably so. Like, I'm quite sure LeBron knew what was already coming towards him. Like, I think when you get to that level that he's at, certain things just don't happen without you just taking certain focus or just being well calculated in your approach at the game, especially when I think it was last week, will be considered to have earned over $1 billion, or at least $1 billion by the end of this coming season, this year. Yeah. So, I mean, to even get to that point, you have to be so calculated. So I'm quite sure every team he's always going to, he's kind of like, he comes in as being a C-suite person. He's not even just a player.
No, I hear you. It's just the way you said it sounded. Every time, like, it sounded funny.
Hold on, what did I say?
The way you said it sounded funny to me. That's all.
Oh, word. Yeah. I didn't even realize I was trying to keep up with my thoughts, man.
No, that shit sounded funny to me.
Yeah.
What are your
thoughts? What else
is
sound? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Lob, did you have any thoughts that you want to share?
Hey, man. I don't think the Lakers are going to make it, but I want to wait for the free agency to happen before I make any hard stance. I'm not entirely a believer of Westbrook. He's been on how many teams in the past 4 years now? And every team he's been on, he's supposed to be the key factor to bring him to the franchise to some type of success. I look at it as like when he was just with the Wizards, yeah, he helped them bring it to the playoffs, but Bradley Beal was a baller on his own. Russell Westbrook, what he ended up doing, triple-double, stat padding. When he was on the Rockets, him and James Harden, what a combination. They can't, oh my God, the West, they might be in trouble. The Warriors, they found their kryptonite, didn't even make the playoffs. So I always look at it as like Westbrook, he's easily, when you talk about point guards, he's easily top 5 point guards, hands fucking down. And you make an argument he's top 10 player in the league. But as far as championship goes, and listeners and commenters, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's ever made it out the first round of the playoffs, except for when they went to the finals. Well, the conference finals when they lost to the Warriors, that 3-1 shit, but also when they went to the finals with and they got swept by fucking LeBron. And that's both times he had KD on the team with him. So after KD, I don't think he's ever been out the first round of the playoffs, Now, being with LeBron does magic, but shouts out to Westbrook. And let's just see what the moves the Lakers can make. Because if they can make some smart moves where, they build the bench up and they actually have some shooters who could space out the floor, so Westbrook can afford to miss a lot of shots, then you're like, okay, now we're talking. But if they think Westbrook is going to be the Messiah that's going to bring them another championship, I just have to disagree right now.
I mean, I can respect that. I can definitely respect that. Like, I mean, when you put it that way, when you look at the history of Westbrook, it kind of does look that way where because he is posed as an X factor when he gets onto a team. And like you said, it's kind of messed up, but he hasn't made it that far he hasn't made it that far without KD. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he might come to Brooklyn next. You never know. I mean, but to be honest with you though, one thing I can say is it's a possibility that we'll probably get him taking the Lakers to the playoffs and getting further in the championship before we get like a Silk Sonic album.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
Yeah, like they promoted this album in March of this year, of saying like, yo, we're about to drop this single and then we're going to drop this album, and we got this great group with this great 1 or 2 songs, and then no album. And yet again, somehow they've done it again to help continue the hype and this great, hopefully they can milk this gravy train at some point. Silk Sonic has released a new single. Personally, I'll be honest with you, I think I listened to it once and I turned it off because it reminded me how upset I am that we have not gotten this album yet. What's both of y'all takes on Silk Sonic's new single, as well as this whole gimmick of this super group that we haven't gotten an album from?
All right, so I'm gonna go first. One, I didn't even listen to it. I just downloaded it as we're talking, so I'm gonna listen to it after we're done recording. But what I can talk about is the album not releasing it's time, guys. It's time. It wasn't like when they released the first single, we did a video, we did a little promotional tour, blah, blah, to continue to build the hype of the album. It was like the single, video, quiet. And yeah. I get it. They may be fine-tuning the album, adding some more stuff, whatever, make sure everything is mixed and mastered to the perfection. But it's like dead quiet. I think like some people forgot about that album was a thing. I think they probably was like, hey, we forgot. And I just feel like hey guys, if you're not going to drop the album soon, start promoting the stuff, because people are waiting for this album. People are fucking with the music. People like both of these artists individually, and they like them together. I just think it's like, hey, this is money printing itself. I don't understand why the promotion is not. I don't understand why there's no machine hyping it up. Look at fucking Kanye West when and we'll get into him a little later, but ever since the whole Donda thing, the internet they haven't stopped talking about fucking Donda. Right. I'll even go to a different lane. Fucking Playboy Cardi. There's people talk about the fucking deluxe still. And you know, he's another one where he doesn't release shit on time neither, but I just feel like with Silk Sonic, hey, we want this album. We're waiting for it. Please drop the album sooner than later. You know, I mean, if you're fine to making sure everything is right, we're fine with that. But it's like you just left us in the dark for months, and then next, you know, one day, hey, single.
But see, that's the thing. That's a thing for me though. When you say all of that, is that I feel like they have like I understand like fine tuning, but I feel like for them to be so big, all of them collectively, and we living in 2021. If this was like 2009, I understand. Hey, we put out a single, what they see, what they like, and let's go back to the studio, work on some more. I feel like they should have a project done. To me, I just can't see these two superstars in their own rights. Now, granted, we all know Anderson .Paak isn't as big as Bruno Mars, but nonetheless, two big superstars in their field of music, right?
Correct. Yeah.
How do they not? It's impossible for me to believe that out of their busy schedules that they can't find time. They haven't found the time to put out music together or create a bunch of songs together. To me, as a fan of both of them, primarily Anderson .Paak more of than Bruno Mars personally, I just find it hard that they only just got together one time, did one song, got together another time, did another song, and said, hey, it's coming. It's just crazy.
Yeah, when I hear this, I just see that they're dragging this shit out. Like, I won't be listening to a lot of singles. Like, if they're going to be putting out a single every few months, I'll just wait for the damn album to come out. Like, yep. For me personally, like, I have no interest of listening to the songs. And I listened to a little bit of this new song. It sounded good. Of course, they make good music together. I'm not mad at that. But, like, I want to hear the album. You know what I mean? Now, I know there is a select group of people out there that don't necessarily listen to the music by albums. They listen to it by however it comes out in whatever format. So for them, this probably works because they just want new Silk Sonic however they can get it. And it's a nice little summer song. You know what I mean? They put it out. And I'm not mad at that. But when did Leave the Door Open come out? It came out like either really early this year or like damn near late last year or some shit like that?
It was like March. It was like early March this year, I believe.
And there's no word on when this album's supposed to be coming out. You know what I mean? So like to me personally, I'll just wait. I can wait for whatever reason it's coming out. And I think it's probably some label shit because I don't understand why it would take this long to put out an album. But like me personally, I'll just be chilling. Shouts out to Anderson .Paak. Shouts out to Bruno Mars. I'm not listening to your shit till the album comes out.
Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm convinced that this might be the new Child Rebel Soldiers album.
Jesus.
like that was like the same hype that was around that super group at one point. Yes, everybody man. Like, and for listeners, if you're not familiar, Child Rebel Soldiers is a group with Lupe Fiasco, Kanye West, and Pharrell Williams. Yep. In the, I think, late 2000s or early 2000s. It was late 2000s because I think this was like
late 2000s. We were, we were still like in high school, I think.
Yeah, so like late 2000s, maybe 2010 at the latest. Kanye West, Lupe Fiasco, and Pharrell Williams decided to do a song together called Child Rebel Soldiers, and they will be releasing this they would get together as a group and call themselves CRS, Child Rebel Soldiers, and put out an album together. Fans died and cried for it, listened to one or two songs. I think they did 2 or 3 songs together.
Something like that.
Never got an album after that. And from what it looks like Silk Sonic is doing, this is slowly falling down the same footsteps.
Imagine if we never got a Silk Sonic album. You know what I mean? How would you feel about that?
Not upset, but I'd be like, man, what a waste of opportunity.
Yeah, I wouldn't be like overly upset, but I would be like disappointed because like, wow, so this is such a great opportunity that I think there's this. it's too good for it not to happen. And they've already teased us with what should be coming to us. And it sounds amazing. So that's the thing. Like, what would you think about that if they never release it, Nigel?
I wouldn't care. I mean, at this point in time, because I feel like they put out a really good single, and to me, I've kind of been questioning if the album's going to come out anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if we just never got it. Like, to me, it's like, oh, okay, they just never put the shit out, and it's going to be one of those things like whatever happened to that album. So, I mean, like, to me personally, I'm listening to the shit that came out. We had so many damn releases this weekend. I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true because, I mean, you're not lying, though. But even then, right, even like that whole waiting thing, right, I think even as all of us being fans of his, even like for Isaiah Rashad, like I think it's been what, maybe 3 or 4 years since his last release.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a high anticipation. And I mean, he had hinted with songs, he had dropped songs and talking on Twitter and social media. We never knew what was going to happen, but The House is Burning finally came. For those who don't know, that is the title of his album, The House is Burning by Isaiah Rashad. It released. We finally got this. I think this is the first leg out of TDE when it comes to album releases for this year.
Yep.
I mean, we know there's other artists and anticipations for TDE, but how do you guys feel about the Isaiah Rashad album? Just overall, as well as what do you think this may mean for TDE and for the rest of the year?
Let me go first because I feel like Spence and Nigel, you guys will probably give better breakdowns than me. So, listeners, I'm not a big Isaiah Rashad fan. I know who he was since Saliva Demo and the second project. I forgot the name of it, and let's not get into the second one really, but there's nothing wrong with it. I just can't think of the name of it right now. So I didn't really start being like, okay, I can understand why people like Isaiah Rashad until actually the Lay With You single came out. Then I'm like, okay, I want to hear this album now. I heard the album and I like the album. I think the album is a good album. And I actually listened to the album about 3 times. And my take on the album is this is a good album. I think it's it's better than a lot of rap albums that came out this year because there was a lot of bullshit that came out this year. I can understand why some people wouldn't like it. And the reason why I say that is because of so after you get the first 3 songs, well, I don't know if you want to consider Dark Side a song really, but after you get, the shit with Lil Uzi, I can't remember, Something to the Garden, RP Young, which is fire. And then obviously the first single, Lay With You, the album starts taking a one note thing across the thing. There's no hard hitting songs after that. Now that's not necessarily a problem. For me, it's not a problem because I like listening to a lot of rappers where sometimes like their whole project is hard hitting beats. Like for example, Action Bronson, Only for Dolphins. There's not a song on there where the beat is like dum 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 dum, like some 3 6 Mafia sample. It's it's cool for me. It's cool, but I can understand why somebody wouldn't like that if they don't like that one note kind of sound for the rest of the album. It's about 16 tracks, so I feel like the album to me personally is good. I like the album. But I wouldn't be mad if somebody were like, hey, this isn't their favorite album. Now, they might have different reasons or whatever, but I think Isaiah Rashad is rapping well. I think he's actually trying to tell a story. I actually think that, he's trying to project something with this album. This isn't just a collective of songs that it's like, hey, just put this one on there, put that one on there. No, it's a cohesive project in my opinion. Now, I can understand why somebody would be like, hey, the first 4 songs, I guess, sound so much different from the other ones. But I just feel like it's not that deep, you know what I mean? And this is what he wanted to do, and this is what he envisioned. I think that if you're true Isaiah Rashad fans, you should be really happy with this album because it's not a bad album. It's like I said earlier, it's one of the better albums. So, but this is coming from a guy who isn't the biggest Isaiah Rashad fan. Not because I never hated him before, but this was actually my first time really listening to him. I would have to go back to his other two projects to see why fans really were anticipating this album. So shouts out to Isaiah Rashad. Good album, good effort. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Spence.
Well, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
The way I actually agree with a lot of what you said, Lau. I was listening to it, the other morning, and I've been anticipating this album for a while. Since, the Lay With Your track came out, I really was digging it earlier in the year. My issue with the album is more or less, like you said, Lau, like it doesn't really, I would say the pace of the album just really slows down. And that's not an issue, but it's like, I know that for other listeners, it can be a problem where it's like, hey, look, you got these upbeat, kind of middle of the road, upbeat, kind of middle of the road. Then it's like, all right, we just kind of cruising out through the rest of the album. Now, me personally, you also got to think, right? Isaiah Rashad's last album, The Sun's Tirade, was most of those tracks were along the lines of the latter half of this album. I like The Sun's Tirade. I thought it sounded good. It's not my favorite album ever, but it's not bad. I think this album, it sounds good, but I can take some songs out of like the track list and then be all right. And it's like, I can kind of be picky and choosy with it, but I do like pretty much every song on this project. Now, that being said though, I think I would give this album probably like a 3 out of 5, just because like, to me, it's like, it's very listenable. It's very good, but it's not necessarily, I would consider it to be like a great album. You know what I mean? I think it slides in my top 10, but I would have to really think as to what albums all are in my top 10, because I can't tell you off the top of my head. But that being said, though, I think it is definitely worth a listen. It's definitely one of the better albums that come out this year for a fact.
Yeah. So I can definitely say that we all have different opinions when it comes to this album. Because to me personally, if you're a person like Lau was saying that's not familiar with a lot of his work, I could understand like not being the biggest fan of it, or it's something new. It's just completely new to your ears all around, right? Especially when there's like a 5-year gap between Sun's Tirade and this project here. I think maybe 1 or 2 singles in between, but that's not a lot over a 5-year span. But to me, listening to this album, personally, I think this is like an amazing album. As a fan of I'm a huge fan of Sons of Tirade, huge fan of Sylvia's demo, fan of just about all of Isaiah Rashad's features that I've ever heard. That even when this album came out, as soon as I knew it came out probably like 12:30 that morning, I just started listening to it. And I've pretty much listened to this album for like almost like 2 days, a day and a half possibly. And primarily I had to actually fit in some other albums as well before we had to record, of course. But I don't know, to me, I thought it was an amazing album. Personally to me, because we're doing solid numbers out of 5, I would just say it's a 4. Personally, I just can't give it a 5. It's very close to a 5 for me though, personally. Though I do agree there aren't a lot of songs that hit heavy like the singles that we did here. I do think he's still able to illustrate some of this stuff even in a different way with like 9-3 freestyle, right?
Right.
Where and it's like closer to the end. It's like the second to last or third to last song on the album. So he was able to find a way of keeping that balance. But for the most part, a lot of the album is very much him rapping within the beat and not on the beat, if that makes any sense. For listeners that may not understand when I say that, I'm saying that his vocals are more blended within the beat. So it's like I can understand when you're not having that 808 thumping through super hard on a hyped up beat and someone's like rapping, it can not be someone's cup of tea in so many words. So I can definitely understand that. But to me, I think Isaiah Rashad had a great album. I think this album actually, to me, shows that he's definitely, when it comes to TDE, he's going to be the next leg in what they and carrying that torch. I do believe there's always been there's a lot of backstory between him and his relationship with Top Dog, especially over that, even between Sun's Tirade and Sylvia's demo. I think there was a moment in time when he had drug problems. Top Dog sent him to rehab, sent him back home, all of this stuff. For this album, I think this just kicks off TDE and just in a more promising light, especially as we anticipate SZA, as we anticipate Kendrick Lamar, as well as personally, I'm also anticipating J-Rock, who's actually over the past few years, he's definitely became one of my favorite rappers out of TDE. And he even had a great verse on this album as well.
He did.
So it's, I don't know. I think this is just, I think this is the perfect blend of Isaiah Rashad from what fans met initially to what the popular sound is today, that he can blend both of those two. So
also,
go ahead, Nacho.
I was about to say, Isaiah Rashad said that people were putting sugar in their greens, and I don't know who's doing that shit, but that shit's really weird, and whoever's doing that needs to stop.
Nah, you'd be surprised. It's the same people that put sugar in their mac and cheese.
Sugar and mac and cheese, I'm cool with. Not in the greens.
No.
It's happened. It's happened. Yo, the best mac and cheese I'm just saying, yo.
I've had mac and cheese with sugar in it, and I've said no.
Have you had greens with sugar in it?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Me neither.
But you see what two things coincided with each other? I don't eat mac and cheese with sugar like I don't eat my greens with sugar, my friend.
Wow, what were you about to say?
I was going to say, shouts out to that song, True Story, with J-Rock and Jay Worthy. And I really want to shout out Jay Worthy for real, because I feel like this is a guy who's a bit on the underground scene. He's been rapping with like your Larry Junes, your Action Bronsons, your Jerry, Perico. He's actually have songs like Griselda artists and shit like that, like Conway and El Camino, et cetera, et cetera. But for him, I think for him to get a feature on the Isaiah Rashad album, it's like a big step up from what he's been doing in the past. Meaning like, and he also had a feature earlier on the Fraud Department project with Jim Jones. So shouts out to Jay Worthy. He's getting a little more notarized. Let me just say that. But yeah, the album, I'm not mad with Spencer's take on the album. He is an Isaiah Rashad fan, so he knows what to expect a bit more than what I would. But as a new guy, there's, shouts out to Isaiah Rashad. I don't have anything bad to say about this album. Like, no hard criticism if it was like some, crybaby baby auto-tune guy.
Nah. I mean, hey man, listen, I respect your opinion, man. I definitely respect your opinion. I do know Logic dropped an album, as we always talk about criticism. And I'm always quick to have a criticism of my opinion of Logic's album.
But before be honest. Just say what it actually is.
I mean, but I do feel like before I give any opinion on Logic's album, I rather the people that are of high favor of Logic speak on them first.
So Logic put out a new project called Bobby Tarantino 3 after retiring last year for under a year. So Logic is back.
Is that even
like he never left?
He took a lunch break, bro.
That's like what's the proper term? Yeah, sabbatical. That's what it is.
That's it. Thank you. Sabbatical is the best word. So he put out this new project, and I'm not gonna lie to listeners. I am a Logic fan, but when I started listening to this project, I wasn't really feeling it that much. There's a song on there specifically called My Way that I do not like at all. I actually despise that song. That being said, though, after you get past that song, it's not that bad of a project. I think it's okay. I think this project to me is like another 3 out of 5 type project. You know what I mean? It's definitely worth a listen. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's good. You know what I mean? If you like Logic, then you should listen to this album. But if you're not a fan of Logic, then I can understand as to why you probably wouldn't like it. That being said, though, Logic's on here rapping and doesn't get too heavily into his singing shit. But I'm curious to see what he does for his next album because I always feel like the Bobby and Tarantinos are like a nice like in between something else. So you know what I mean? And it just so happens that he did put out his album last year, his retirement album, quote unquote. So I'm curious to see as to what he puts out next year.
It's a Battlecore album. This is an album.
It's a project. I mean, fuck it. Like, it is what it is. If you want to call it an album, cool. Like, I mean, I'm not mad if it is an album.
I was gonna say if the man says, "Hey, this is my album that I've given y'all after retirement," it's an album.
So like, you don't like it. So what are your thoughts?
I didn't say I didn't like it. You got anything to say, Lau?
He didn't listen.
Yeah,
be honest. I'm the only one who likes Logic here. It's like, it's not a secret. You know what I mean? If the listeners have been listening for a while, go back and listen to the Logic video where we actually talk about Logic, and then come back here.
Yeah, come back here. Because personally, to me, I will say this. So I'll start it off by saying this. The other night before I guess the album that came out, and I just had stuff playing. I guess one song that popped up was like "Call Me" randomly. And I was like, oh, this is a good song.
I like that song.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is like a really good song. I was like, this is the type of music I like. And I was like, it sounds like that one guy I'm not a big fan of.
Well, name names. Go on, man. Don't be afraid.
And then I realized, I'm like, oh shit, it's Logic. So
that one guy.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, nice single. Let me go press play. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm not mad at the album. The album's not that bad to me. Yeah.
I'm shocked.
I'm not gonna lie. I really thought this was like, I'll be honest with you. I was like, this is an album that I will play. Even if I'm not listening to it, this is something I would have as background music. Like, to me, it's good background music while also like the music's good on the album. Now, I will say this, despite me saying all that, I am still going to, some of my takes on Logic are still there, right, where I don't believe to me, he doesn't show any originality. At one point there was a song where I thought there was Lil Uzi singing the hook. And then I realized it was Logic. That might've been like Vaccine or Get Up within shortly after the album started.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this sounds like Lil Uzi. And then I was like, that's Logic, which was weird. I'll put it like this. The same way we talked about Isaiah Rashad as like someone that's new listening. If I never heard who Logic was and I heard this album, I would be a fan of his. I will say, I could say that, but knowing the music he has made and hearing this and hearing the music I'm hearing, I will listen to this project. It doesn't necessarily mean I became a fan of his, right? But it's not a bad album. I think my favorite two songs on here may be Flawless and Call Me. And I think Flawless is just an interesting song, but I'm not sure if it's my way, but there is a song on here I'm not a fan of where he calls himself the boy, which it's not even an arguable thing that we all know that Drake is. Yeah. Drake has always proclaimed himself to be the boy. So I guess this is his what's the dude's name from Mortal Kombat that shapeshifts?
Shang Tsung.
Yeah, like I guess this is like another technique in his Shang Tsung tactics.
Oh Jesus!
I'm serious because listen, man. I like this project. I'll listen to this project. I've actually saved some of the songs from this project to my phone, right?
Right.
But I also know, like, hey, this sounds like to me, knowing who Logic is as being a rapper, this sounds like someone that's trying to sound like the more current sound. And to me, I was curious to see how you thought of it because he's singing by your standards on most of this album. So
my way he's singing on that song, and that's undeniable. Yeah. I don't really know what to say about that.
Yeah. Hey man, this is your king.
Lau, did you have anything to say? I had one more point if you have something to say.
Go ahead, man.
So I'll say out of the releases that came out this weekend, my favorite one was actually Hoffa. I'm not going to lie. Me personally, I listened to it and I was like, oh, this might be the best sounding project. Over Isaiah Rashad, over Logic's album. over Willie the Kid's album, which Lau suggested to me. I liked Hoffa. I liked it quite a bit. I think Harry Fraud's having a good year. And I think that I'm going to listen to it again before I really stand on that. But it's a good project. And I know a lot of people, give Dave East some hate, and he hasn't really been the most consistent rapper all the time, in my opinion. But I think Hoffa is a good sounding album, and he should be proud of that.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Hoffa. Actually, I've been listening to Dave East since he came out. Actually,
you were more excited. Yeah, at the Currency show when you're hating on Currency. Yeah, that night. Yeah.
When I went to go see Dave East and Currency was another act on the bill. As a fan of Dave East, then I didn't really listen to this album yet. I haven't listened to this album yet. I will check it out. But from what I've heard so far, I'm not the biggest fan of it, just because me and like some friends, we often talk about this. Personally, I feel like Dave East is like a little too narrow-minded in his content that he makes. Because I think Dave East has all the, and this has always been a conversation I've had behind closed doors with friends. We always believe Dave East has all the intangibles to be a superstar. Whether it's like, for one, like, okay, you played basketball, you can sell yourself to women, you have the grittiness for the street music, you have like the look that fans love, because and I say that because of what we've seen from like when he's tried different areas. But I can't give an opinion on this album yet, but I don't know. Like, to me, I just always felt like Dave East could be a bigger artist, but it sounds like he just still raps about like he's chasing to be like the Sheiks, the Styles P's, the Jadakisses, the Dipsets of the world, or not necessarily Dipsets, but like you can hear some of those influences more of, if anything. But
I can't hold that against Dave East too heavily, though, because I listen to multiple artists that people would say are one-dimensional in what they rap about. I'm a big fan of Currency. Currency doesn't really go too far off the board from what he's been rapping about from day one. You know what I mean? So, like, me personally, it can get boring. It can get boring, don't get me wrong, but I don't listen to Dave East that often for him to get boring to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But see, I think that's the thing. And maybe we can have, maybe Keith can come up here one of these days and talk about it, because I know he's a Dave East fan. But, like, to me, I feel like Dave East is one-dimensional. And in the sense, and the difference between it is I prefer Dave East over Currency personally. But I think, just because I have an opinion on music. But, yeah, hey, you live in 2021. What can I say, kid? But Dave East, like, to me, I think Currency, like, he's one-dimensional, but he's talking about like the evolution of his life still, right? Right. But like, and even though it could be under the same guise, it's still an evolution. To me, a lot of Dave East music is some evolution, but a lot of it's just like talking about being like still in the hood, which don't get me wrong, there's a lane for that, but I think that was like how he started off his music. And I think rappers in that light should also grow still, especially in the age we're in today. But I think who knows, maybe he ends up becoming like a label head or whatever down the line, similar to like Yo Gotti. I think, because I know we had talked about it before, but we know Yo Gotti has what, Moneybagg Yo right now, who's the highest selling artist in the country, as well as like one of the hottest new artists right now, ESTG. And I think he has another artist, 42 Doug, black youngster we don't really talk about, but he's got like a good label right now. So are you guys familiar with CMG, like the artists on CMG for the most part, or not?
Yeah, because they're plastered all over social media.
Oh, I can respect that. Like, so to me personally, right, because I was watching the ESTG interview on The Breakfast Club, and it made me realize, like, I think CMG may be, if not yet, the new IT label, as we've seen before when we've had like your QCs, your TDEs, your Dreamville. Well, Dreamville never became an IT label outside of J. Cole, but like the label where you have just it's a lot of talent that's like has a big buzz behind it.
I'll say, 42 Doug, and as much affection as he shows to his son, maybe not lick on his neck so aggressively. That's what I will say. But overall, though, their label, I think, is actually doing pretty decently. I know a lot of people like ESTG. A lot of people like 42 Doug, you know what I mean? And I don't think they'll necessarily be like the next label of any type, but I mean, they could always do things in their lane of music. And I think that they are doing things in their lane of music. And I think, shouts out to them for that. But I don't think they'll be like the ones. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
My bad, sorry. Sorry, my bad.
Only reason I say that is just because of like you have like the biggest artist right now, which is Moneybagg Yo.
So my quick take on this is shouts out to everybody that you've mentioned that's on CMG because, there's a good amount of people under one roof that's doing well. So you can't deny that. You have to give credit where credit is due. My thing of CMG, I just don't think those artists particularly make great music overall. They might make a song here and might make a song there that might be actually good, but I think consistently, I don't know, man. Like, and this is just for me, of course, you guys may have different opinions. You guys may love CMG. Maybe you guys, after the podcast's over, Nigel's going to take down his Steelers thing and it's a poster of Moneybagg Yo's. Who knows? But what I will say is just, in my honest opinion, I just don't think they make great music overall. Like the 42 Doug album was not a good album. Moneybagg Yo, he's a much better rapper than 42 Doug, but a lot of people are not saying his album was a classic. They were saying like, yeah, it was decent. It had some songs on there, but it wasn't like some all-time classic. I just think that the reason why they're big is what they are is because they're flooding the game with so much. You know what I mean? Where you have no choice but to select a few songs and be like, this one is not that bad. This one, da-da-da-da. But I just think overall, they don't make a whole lot of great music, but since they're putting out a whole lot, it's like they're there. So far as saying that they're the new it label, as far as like success goes, you can say that. I just don't think, oh, well, they're on CMG, so they finna be the next big star. I just think that it's just the product of the time right now. But I will give Yo Gotti credit because he has assembled a team where a few people under him are super successful, and you can never take that away from a man. Like, he's done a good job with that. So, but the quality of the music will be a difference of opinions. But as far as success goes, you can't take that away from him.
Right. Yeah. I think when it comes to the quality of music, I think that's all subjective. So like everybody has the right to have their own opinion on what they like or dislike in terms of music. But like at the same time, I do agree when it comes to success. I think right now CMG is definitely one of the more successful labels in terms of new labels that are on the rise. Right. Because if we keep, to me, reason I say that is because most of the labels that people coveted are primarily just one artist for the most part, right? Dreamville, outside of TDE, like Dreamville, granted you have JID, but it's primarily the Dreamville is only as big as J. Cole for the most part, right? JID is a great rapper, just hasn't hit a stride to get to that level. OVO, granted we have Division, we have Party Next Door, but they're not promoted they're not as big of artists as their talent we would think they are, but you have Drake. So to me, I look at them in this something similar to not necessarily a TDE or like in that same run, I guess, like how we saw with Griselda, where we're having these artists put out music after music. And to me, I like a lot of the music. I'm not a big 42 Doug fan, but like we said, like it's consistency. A lot of times it's consistency. And if you really rock with the music. So, but I mean, I think, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the line. And you know how it always goes when you have these, as labels ascend and they get to that level, then we'll start having the conversation of like, who's better, this CMG versus this label, right? And right now I know, actually by the time this comes out, I believe it's the day before this comes out, Dipset versus Locks will be the next thing for the verses. Just wanted to bring that up to you guys. Who do you guys still got winning that? Dipset or Locks in this case?
I'm a fan of Dipset. I fucks with Dipset. I think Cameron, Jewels. I fucked with even some of the obscure members like, J.R. Ryder, Hell Rel, 40 Cal. I like Dipset. With that being said, I think the Locks wins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do.
Really?
They're a better collective of rappers, man. They are. They're better rappers. I think they have the hits to compete. I just don't think it's going to be a wash, as some people say. Yeah, Dipset, I think they're more remembered because of their mainstream hits, but I just don't see it as a wash at all. I think this is going to be a lot closer, and I just think that the Locks gets the edge. That being said, like I said, I'm a big Dipset fan. I just think the Locks, they get it. I'm giving respect where respect is due.
I think I'm still gonna go with Dipset, but I know the Locks got like a few songs in there that are gonna hit no matter when they play them. Like We Gonna Make It and fucking 24 Hours to Live are two songs that are just going to hit. That's just is what it is. So me personally, like, I know they have a few more songs in like that are gonna hit for sure, but like I really want Dipset to take it, and I think that they can take it. You know what I mean? It just really depends on what they're pulling out the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could go either way. I do think it's going to come down to a close match in the later rounds. Probably in those rounds of 15 to 20 is when we'll end up getting a decision of who's going to win. Of course, it always does come down to matchup, like what songs are getting matched up to what. But I still got Dipset winning this. I do think as a collective. I think Dipset just has like the bigger anthems, but I do think the Locks do have a long history with All for the Love is going to get, which is just a Jadakiss record by itself for real. But that's going to get used. I know Jadakiss will probably use even some of his Mariah Carey hits because I know that it's impossible for them to use only group material, right? So, and then on top of it, we still have on the Dipset side, you have Jim Jones with his singles career, Joel Santana, as well as Cameron, who, I mean, I think we all know he's probably one of the bigger artists between him and Jadakiss. Him and Jadakiss are the biggest artists on both of their respective groups. So right. I think it's going to come down. I think the thing is this in terms of supporting groups when it's the Styles P, the Chic Luchas versus the Joel Santanas, the Jim Joneses, your 40 Cows, whatever the case may be. I think they're stronger there, and that's another reason why I got Dipset winning this one for real. So,
Hey, real quick before we move on, do you think Jim Jones plays anything Max B related?
No,
he's got to. So? Max B is bowling. You can't.
No, you're right.
Or what's forgot the song title, but the G's up, Hoes down. Yeah, that's another Max B hit.
Yeah. He's got to play. He's got to play that. He's got to play Certified Gangster. He's got to play Bird Gang stuff from Bird Gang. Like Jim Jones has to tap into a bag that's related to Max B, unfortunately. Like Grant, and I say unfortunately because I know there's still a ongoing animosity or distaste with Jim Jones towards Max B, which we all understand if anybody understands that whole beef that they had. So, but I don't know.
That's a Max B. I'm a Max B fan.
Yeah, shout outs to Max B, man. I think he should be coming home sometime soon. I mean, I remember last time. Who knows? Maybe Max B might be on this Kanye album for real. Now that I think about it, because you remember, I think it was for Pablo, where it was that whole thing where Max B ended up being on Kanye's album because of that whole Waves thing with Wiz Khalifa calling him out about it, blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't know. That it should be interesting. I know Kanye West is doing another part 2 for the Donda listening event. What's your guys' take on that? Especially knowing that he's allegedly been living in this in the stadium, working on this album.
I'm ready for the album. All these listening events. Yeah, that's cool. Please drop the album August 6th or August 5th. Those are the 2 dates I keep seeing. I don't give a shit about the new leaks, blah blah blah. What could potentially, what listeners can hear. Just drop the album, please. This is like another Silk Sonic thing. Let's not do the Playboy Cardi route where he's teasing shit and we don't get nothing for 2 years. Like, come on.
You know, I mean, to me, I think Kanye West is going to go in there. He's going to make a lot of money. And I hope this time he just puts the album out afterwards. That's all. And honestly, if he's going in there and he's playing the same exact album that he played like a couple weeks ago, then it's like, all right, we all know Kanye West is going in there and making some money. You know what I mean? Like, now that being said, like, it's still going to be kind of artsy and this, that, and the third, like, whatever. But like, at the same point in time, like, me personally, if I was a fan of Kanye, would I go back to another listening event? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I just hope the album comes out this time.
Yeah, as a person that went to the Kanye listening event the first time, I'm the same way where I'm ready for just the album to come out. I have the leaked, not the leaked version. Well, I have a leaked version that was based off the first listening event. I do think Kanye will be playing that same album again, but it will probably be updated with his features, ideally. Because I know there was a alleged rumor that what was played wasn't exactly what Kanye wanted to be played, but he just kind of went with it, which I don't really believe. I don't believe that rumor, but
me neither.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, I have seen people say that what Kanye is also doing is covering the bill that he had to pay for living in the stadium, because allegedly they were saying it's costing him like $1 million practically a day, which I think that's a little excessive, but for him to use a stadium. So,
I mean, whatever. Like, just drop the album, man. Like, please.
Nah, I feel you. I mean, I think the album's going to come. It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, I also look at it as this is the Kanye experience. Like, Kanye's done this. He's historically known for doing this. So to me, to some extent, this isn't too far off from the path that he's always traveled down before, I think.
Yeah. I mean, this is more Kanye shit, you know? I'm not mad at it, though. But you know who people are mad at? The baby. They're very mad at him.
Yeah, man.
Very upset.
Yeah, Elton John is going as far as to come out to say something, as well as Madonna. I think there's artists that have taking their music off of streaming platforms that have features with the baby.
Really?
Yeah. I forget the woman's name, but she's like a big artist, like in her own genre. And she put out a statement saying, "Oh, I'm upset that he would say something like this. I never thought he would be this type of person." And she removed the single Boohoo Men, which is a clothing line. They've cut ties with them for their, I think they had a collaboration that they were doing together, cut ties with them. And I think they just released this collaboration like 2 weeks ago.
All right. Go ahead. My bad. I thought you were done.
Well, I just realized for those listening that may not realize what we're talking about, at Rolling Loud, the baby had his performance, and during his performance, he had a couple unflattering words to say about different communities as well as the LGBT community, and making comments about AIDS and HIV. Left a big distaste in a lot of people's mouths, and pretty much what we've been talking about so far of people cutting ties with him has been happening. But with that being said, go ahead. What was you about to say, Lau?
So as you were speaking and giving the listeners the 411 of the situation. The big festival that's happening up in Chicago, Lollapalooza, it just came out moments ago as we're recording that, hey, the baby is no longer part of the festival. They basically canceled his performance.
Jesus.
So it's happening, and it's going to be a trickle-down effect with certain people. So here's my take on it before Nigel hops on board with his take. I don't agree or condone what the baby said at all. I thought what he was saying, there was just no reason to say what he said. You know, whether you agree with, if you agree with the, with what he said or not, with his opinions or not, there was no reason for him to say what he said during that performance. And I know that his supporters or the trolls or the kids that live in the suburbs and they don't know what it's like, outside of the internet, I know they're kind of like, oh, it's free speech and all that. Like, no, there's consequences for the thing you say. And what people fail to realize is, like, the baby might have freedom. He might be like, yo, I don't care if you guys cancel me or not. It's not going to work. I'm still going to be here, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people forget these private entities that's providing these funds to you, they have the right to yank it away because they don't want their bottom dollar to be affected. So if these companies feel threatened, or not necessarily just threatened, but they don't like what you say, they have every right to be like, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not listen to it. I'm not going to do business with you. I'm going to yank your stuff away, and that's okay. And they'll move on to the next thing. I think what the baby's done is he brought it onto himself. Whether he takes accountability or not, whatever, that's him. He has to wake up and look in the mirror every day for that. But he brought it upon himself. He can't. I didn't agree with the fact that he said, "Oh, well, these people are trying to take down black people." No, man, you can't bring race into this one. You said something about this community where it has a lot of support and backing. Today in 2021 into 2022, until however long this goes on for, and it could go on forever. We don't know, but as of right now, you can't come out and say insulting or questionable or controversial comments about that community, about the LGTB community. Excuse me if I say the acronyms incorrectly, and think that you're going to get away with it. It doesn't work like that today, unfortunately. You should be smart enough to know that, like, hey, I'm in a space where I have to be conscious and aware of the things that I say publicly. You know what I mean? Now, the baby had no reason to say what he said. Now he has to suffer the consequences. Now, the thing that I don't like, where I'm going to side with the baby with, is these random celebrities coming out trying to get a cancellation of him. I don't like that because I look at it as like, it's like pick and choosing the rules. Because yes, what he said was wrong, and I don't support what he said. And the companies have the right to cancel him because they're the ones that's providing the money. They're the ones that's creating the event or whatever. All these sponsorships, But these celebrities don't have any ties to the baby. You know what I mean? Now, if I forgot the young lady's name, Dua Lipa, whatever her name is. If she came out and she's like, for her to come out, it was like, hey, I don't condone this. I don't support this. I understand that because she made a song with the guy. And I can understand her letting her fans know, like, yeah, even though I made music with this guy, blah, 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 and maybe I had planned to make more music with him, I don't support what he has. But these other artists that haven't worked with the baby on put out anything publicly, whatever, I just think like it's like everybody's texting each other behind the scenes to like, hey, we're going to do our best to come out publicly and cancel him. Like when I see Demi Lovato saying what she's saying, I'm looking at her like, yo, you're the first thing from a scene. Like, let's not. I don't want to hear anything coming from you talk about canceling. Let's not do that. Like, you had your issues. People forgave your issues. The baby said some unfavorable comments. You shouldn't be trying to promote people to cancel him. Like, I'm not saying people shouldn't agree with the baby, or I'm not saying that. I'm also not saying that he's right. So please, anybody, don't twist or misconstrue my words. What I'm saying is I don't like the whole canceling train from people that has nothing to do with the baby. I feel like people should formulate their own opinions. Do I agree with him? No. Do I agree with these people, like these companies or festivals getting rid of him? I'm not mad at it. He did it to himself. So it is what it is. I don't agree with these random celebrities that have nothing to do with him to now publicly speak out and talk. Like, you just sound like you're a follower. Like, because at all the times the baby's talking about negative shit in his music, killing, sleeping with other men's wives or spouses, doing ridiculous stuff, you know, gang related stuff in his music, whether it's for entertainment or not, nobody comes out and says it. But when he comes out and says a few quick unfavorable comments, all of a sudden it's enough for you to get on social media and attack the man and promote other people to cancel him. I just think, like, hey, you're following something. Like, you shouldn't be like that. If you don't fuck with him, that's okay, but don't promote other people to hop aboard and cancel him. Because what that says to me is, anytime that somebody makes a mistake publicly, whether it's a comment or whatever, they need that automatically they have to be canceled. They must be canceled. And this includes the Madonna. This includes Questlove. Shouts out to Questlove. And this includes, you know, any other person that came out publicly to say that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to cancel him from unfavorable comments, then you need to cancel everybody that's making mistakes from now to the future. And that's not going to happen. And that's the problem that I have with it. But that's just my small take on the whole thing.
Yeah, you know, when I heard him say, you know, all that stuff that he said, I was just kind of like, just like you, Lau, I was just like, why did he decide to get online and say that? You know what I mean? And he has the right to have whatever opinions he wants to have. And, you know, that's that and the third. But at the same point in time, it's like, I don't understand why during a middle of a performance at Rolling Loud, he just decided to say that. It seemed like nothing was going on about that, but he decided to say it like it was bothering him or something. Me personally, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with him, you know, getting on people about, you know, AIDS and HIV. I think, like, you know, I'm not sure if y'all know anybody who's, like, you know, has an STD or anything like that, but I don't think they really need any more of a hardship, you know what I mean, because of the STD they got. And not only that, some of those people could be born with HIV, you know what I mean, without choice in the matter. So, like, I think, like, that's wrong. I'll just say that. But I mean, me personally, the way I see it is, like, I agree with what you're saying, actually. Like, if you don't really rock with the baby, that's one thing, you know what I mean? But don't rock with the baby because everybody else is not rocking with the baby. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the baby's done his fair share of questionable things up until this moment. You know what I mean? And this is just another thing in a line of things. You know what I mean? So, like, me personally, like, I listen to the baby's music. I don't agree with what he said at all. But I'm curious to see what the outcome of all this is, because I feel like a lot of people are mad at the baby right now. But let's see what happens next year when he puts out a song that actually sounds good. Because let's be real, the baby does put out some good music. And it seems like, you know, if you want to remedy a situation similar to another situation that happened last year and somebody who performed with the baby, you put out a song that everybody likes, and it seems like people just seem to forget it. So, like, me personally, I don't agree with what he said, and I'll say that. Do I think he should necessarily be canceled? I think that people should tell him he's wrong. But I think that canceling people is an interesting situation in itself. And I think that, you know, it's kind of a thing where it's like, you know, in society, we think, hey, like, let's cancel him. And it's like, you know, okay, we cancel him for a year and then we're back on it like nothing ever happened. Like, if I don't fuck with your decision, I'll fuck with your decision. I'll tell you that. And then if you do something that's cool, I'll tell you that. because people change, you know what I mean? And people do wrong things and people do right things. But this was clearly a wrong thing. That's what I will say.
Yeah, my bad, Spence, because I know you're about to get into it too. I just want to say, like, I agree. When people are wrong, they need to be called out for, hey, being wrong. But the canceling thing is just a little overboard, because it's like, if you do it to him, you got to do to everybody, no matter the form of entertainment they're a part of. You got to do to everybody. You can't just do it to him because he said some comments that not everybody's going to like. You have to do it to everybody moving forward. People need to be coming out, canceling people left or right then. Because if not, it comes off very shady and like, hey, there's a plan of attack to remove this man. And that's what I just don't like.
Right. I mean, I share the same opinion when it comes to what was the purpose what did you expect to gain from that when he made those comments? Because I mean, I think anybody should understand, for someone to randomly make a statement that has nothing to do with anything, definitely when it's like something of like a distasteful comment, right? It's like at that point you're going out of your way. And it leaves many people to question, like, okay, why is this person even, what's the purpose of even saying this? So I do think the backlash that he's getting from it, I think it's it's an accumulation of a lot of other things that have happened to him in terms of, I think he's gotten away with so much, right? Up to this point. And I think a lot of things, even though he's ascended himself as like kind of like a pop artist to some extent, or like he's like kind of like those rappers that like he has like those Busta Rhymes type of videos from like back in the day where they're like really animated and colorful and stuff, right? So like from those, like even from those videos, you see like, okay, he's at a bigger level, right? He's pretty much like the male version of Meg Thee Stallion to some extent, right? Different content in terms of music, but I think as he's gotten away with other things, whether it's the fight at the mall or even like apparently now there's the family of the man that he killed when he was at work, when he was at a Walmart because he claimed the guy tried to rob him. Even they came out and made a statement as well. So I think all those combinations of things gave him the impression that, hey, I can say and do whatever I want and I'll still keep becoming more successful. Because throughout all those other events, he's only succeeded even more.
Right.
But I think this is just distasteful. I think a lot of things that have happened since then is unfortunate, but I mean, it's also like they say, as any adult knows, like you understand the consequence. When you do something, you have to accept the consequences of your actions. And I think where you have big companies and I mean, let's be honest, like even no matter how if a company feels or a concert feels a certain way or agrees or disagrees with them, in terms of a bottom line, it is mandatory that they drop someone like this because of the bigger implications from support, right? Now, when it comes to what Lau was saying as well about other people kind of bandwagoning on the cancel train for him, it's like it's a bittersweet thing because I do agree to some extent where it's like if out of nowhere you just started bringing up something and you have no relation to this community outside of just support itself, like if you're just going out of your way to say something, I understand supporting or whatnot, but like someone like Elton John, I understand Elton John coming out and saying something like Elton, and we all know Elton John's history, even to the point of like what he dealt with Eminem decades ago. So I understand that. But when you have like certain artists just randomly popping out, I think a lot of times what the reason for that is that similar to what these big businesses do where, hey, my fans are upset about it, whether I care or not care about it, I'm going to say something just to appease my fans, which I understand, but I don't necessarily agree with because similar to like Lau said, I think if you pull up anything from anybody, especially these people that throw these stones, these people live in glass houses as well. And there's anything that can help, that can get those people canceled as well. So I think that's something to also notice. And then of course, like, I mean, I think I think the statements that the baby said, I think this is going to make him sit down and have to reevaluate, and probably whoever is on his team in terms of publicists or whoever. I think this is going to be another thing of, hey, you're not talking. Well, we need to have a conversation on what you can and cannot say at this point in terms of moving his career further. Because he's, at this point, we all know the baby is one, even though he may not be talked about amongst us at least, like that, he's still a super successful rapper at this point, and he's
right.
he's at a higher tier than most artists. So,
right.
But I mean, I think there's just more to come. I think, and within the first week, it's a lot, but in the weeks to come, in the next few months, I think we'll have a better idea of where he sits in the ecosystem at this point, especially with so much money, like so many with labels backing him and all these other ventures that I'm quite sure someone's going to say, hey, I can get him for the low now.
So go ahead.
I just want to say, shout out to the victims of AIDS and HIV, that especially the ones that didn't have a choice, unfortunately. Like Nigel was saying, some of them are born without it, or some of the victims who are like, they were being...
They contracted it without their knowing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So because it's not really, it's just shouts out to them, because a good portion of those people, they didn't know. And unfortunately it's not their fault. And they're been dealt a hand of something that they didn't even know was possible for them to get. And also shouts out to the LGTB community. Once again, forgive me if I messed up the acronym.
It's LGBT. It's LGBT.
Shouts out to that community as well, because like, whether you agree with, their way of life and their way of the way they live their lives or not, I feel like for them, they always, unfortunately, their detractors attack them so much where they become victims, unfortunately, and they're not bad people. You know what I mean? Because what they decide to do doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. So, and a good portion of those people may have been a fan of the baby. We don't know. So for him to say what he said, I can understand why those people would be upset, because they might have been like, hey man, we were cheering for you. We actually like your music. So just shouts out to both of those communities. And we hope that they can continue to prosper.
Yeah. Moving from one controversy to another, in the gaming industry, there's been a situation between Activision, Blizzard, and their workforce. Apparently, for years now, there has been a situation where sexual harassment has been in the workplace, and they've documented somebody killing themselves because of it. There's been documented where they had a Cosby room. Guys were walking around making all types of comments about women. Yes, this is happening like as we speak right now. And people...
Where's the cancel train for that then?
No, they need to be fucking canceled. Like,
well,
they need...
Yeah, my bad, Nigel.
Nah, go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say the cancel train has been happening for them. Okay. In the video game world, it has been for them. So there's been media publications that cover video games like IGN, GameSpot, et cetera, that's already come out and said like, hey, we're not covering any more of their video games. We're not going to give any of their platforms any time of the day, et cetera, et cetera. But like this stuff with Activision and Blizzard, it's so sickening, honestly, because it's like, so video gaming is becoming a mainstream thing, but some people could still consider it a niche type of hobby or something like that. So it's not going to get like mass mainstream coverage right now, but it is a big topic in the video game world, because you have women, and there's a lot of women today that likes to play video games, blah, blah, blah. But there's even fewer women that actually work on video games, develop, et cetera, in that world. And so for the few that are working in that world and actually providing the video games that some of us may play, for them to be attacked in any form, especially in sexually, it's a real big shame, and it's a real letdown for that community, because it's like you shouldn't feel like you're in danger at your own job because you have like people who are making nasty, dirty comments towards you and actually taking nasty, dirty actions towards you as well. Where one female employee took her own life due to the sexual harassment. I feel like a workplace like that needs to be shut down. I think a workplace like that, everybody who's in charge and who's involved needs to be investigated on it.
Then even fired.
Yes, and even the former CEO came out and apologized and confirmed some of the shit that has come out to light. So it's kind of like that is a big no-no, and definitely shouts out to everybody who's like, hey, I'm no longer covering any Activision Blizzard stuff, because it's just like, why would anybody support that? I feel like you shouldn't buy their games. Don't give them any light, because the money that you're feeding into, you're giving it to these people who are buying the unfortunate things like the quote unquote Cosby rooms and supporting enabling their bad habits, disgusting habits, actually. And I just think that this is very unfortunate. Shouts out to all the female victims and probably male victims, because people don't like to talk about it enough, but males do get sexually harassed too. You know what I mean? So even by other males. So I feel like to all the victims, shouts out to them, and hopefully they can become, they could become stronger from it and be able to heal, because that's a nasty situation. It really is.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about it. I think that, like Lyle said, if heavy investigation isn't being done, then some firings need to be done, like from the top to the bottom, because that's where it starts at. The shit wasn't going on by itself. And you can't tell me that the people in charge knew nothing about it. When you have problems like this, it always starts at the top. Fire that motherfucker today. Like, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be much of a question. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with this outside of what you've told me so far. It does sound like this is like a really wild scenario that's happened, not scenario, but wild events that have happened with these companies. Hopefully that they're able to get to the bottom line of this, and hopefully anybody that's been a victim of, just anybody that's been a victim of sexual harassment within Activision and Blizzard or within any other space of life, hopefully they're able to get the help that's necessary in the therapy or whatever is necessary for them in their mental wellness. Is really unfortunate. I will say that. So,
well, on a brighter note, there was a movie that came out that I know Lau saw. One of his idols in his life has released a movie, and he got a chance to watch it. And I'll probably end up watching it later on in the day. Lau, how was Jungle Cruise with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson?
I will not lie, listeners. The Rock is one of my idols. I think the man he's a near perfect person. Shouts out to The Rock. There's a reason why nobody hates him, and there's a reason why he's the richest actor in the fucking world, or at least the highest paid actor in the world. What I thought about Jungle Cruise, though, because let's be real with listeners, as much as I'm a fan of The Rock is the best actor in the world. We know that. We know what kind of lane he's really good in. So what I would like to say, though, is this was the first movie in a while it felt like The Rock wasn't playing The Rock. It felt like, wow, he's actually a character. Him and Emily Blunt have great chemistry together. And this movie reminded me of like an old school Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean. I've seen some people saying the original Mummy with, what is the name? Brendan Fraser?
Yep.
Yep. So shouts out to The Rock. This movie was a good movie. I think it's a fun movie. It's definitely one of the better Rock movies for sure. It's a good Disney movie. It really is. I seen that it's on pace to be number one in the opening weekend with already 32 million.
Nice.
So The Rock had another box office smash. That's why everybody's trying to get him in their movies. So
I'm not mad at The Rock, yo. Like, I think if you look at The Rock's career and you say, "Oh, I don't like that," you're a fucking hater, yo. Like you are. And I'll be watching the movie. I know I will at some point in time. I like The Rock's movies for the most part, I'll say. But yeah, I'm anticipating this.
Nah, I wasn't really familiar with it. But I'll definitely have to check it out. I mean, I think The Rock always knows how to deliver for the most part. There's a reason why he's like the highest paid actor in the business at the moment. And I mean, especially as a person that grew up watching The Rock, as The Rock smells, can you smell what I'm cooking? As the guy that we all saw him go into his first movie, and a lot of people said like, "Oh, he's not that great of an actor. He needs to just stick to calling people jabronis," to now being like such a big billing actor. I definitely have to check it out. And like you said, like I think The Rock is a very motivational person. So I think it's just it's always a beautiful thing to see. So I have to definitely check it out.
Do we have anything else for the listeners?
I just want to say shouts out to Maxo Kareem, who dropped a new song, listeners, called Local Joker. It's a dope song. I guess he's gearing up for another album. So everybody check it out. He has a video out too if you like watching visuals. And another artist I want to give a shout out to, Nigel mentioned earlier, is Willie the Kid. And damn, I can't think of the project name right now. Keep Watching the Fly. Dope little project, at least in my opinion. Nigel seemed to like it.
I like that.
So shouts out. I don't know if Spence really listened to it or not, but shouts out to Willie the Kid. So
yeah, I mean, I checked it out. It was all right. I wasn't a big fan of it. I think it's just more of his rapping style. I'm not a fan of. The beats were really hard though. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad album. It was just what you know how you'll hear something that's like, oh, he's good, but it's just not your cup of tea.
Yeah, so, fair enough. Yeah.
So I kind of sat there with it, but I mean, shout outs to him nonetheless. Because I think Willie the Kid's he's been in this game for like 15, 16 years at this point. So it's shout outs to him. I don't really have much more to say other than drink your water, wear your mask, especially as COVID-19 cases are rising. Oh. They're talking about bringing the new wave back, No Max B. Straight up, that's what they're doing. So, I mean, there's not much more to be said about that. Shout outs to Gwen Berry. Just watching the Olympics, she's like, I think for like the hammer throw. She ended up not doing well in the competition that I seen her in, but apparently she was like considered like one of the best at this hammer throw, Black woman. Shout outs to her. Shout outs to all the people out here that are winning medals in the Olympics. Despite the Olympics not being as interesting as they've been before in past years, we spoke on this in the last episode, has been really interesting just seeing, because it hasn't been as interesting, is interesting seeing what things the media are trying to make interesting, right? So, because there's a lot of firsts now. Like, you have the first person to win from this community to win this, or from this country to win that. So, yeah, but that's really it I got, to be honest with you. Drink your water. Drink your water. Oh, there is something else I wanted to ask the listeners to do.
What's that?
If you're listening to this via the streaming platforms and you want to see more, follow us on Instagram at the Highly Advised Podcast. If you want to hear our thoughts randomly throughout the week or what we think is going on in trending topics, you might want to check out our Twitter at Advised Highly.
Okay.
Or if you love the sound of our voices and the way this conversation goes, but you wish you could watch, you could play it on your TV at home while you're working from home, or if you're just chilling in the crib and you want to actually watch people talk about the things you like and what you're hearing, check us out on YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast. I mean, there's nothing better. You can't find anything like this in the universe. It's the best mix of MMA, and hip hop music, combat sports, and rap attacks. You know how you understand it all. I could make this a whole thing a rhyme, but I mean, there's other people that are better at that. And I'll have to quote some of the bars I've heard over the past week with my colleagues once we're finished this show. So
I don't have much to say except shouts out to the motherfucking Pittsburgh Steelers and my family in Pittsburgh. And I hope that we pick up a win in preseason. I don't give a fuck if the shit doesn't matter. I want to see us win, and I want to see us do well this season. I just want to see the Steelers play. So I'm excited for that. You guys have been highly advised. We will see you next time. We are out.
You've been highly advised. Shasha.